Good day, everyone. For this discussion, we will be discussing about the overview of environmental science. So these will be our learning outcomes for this particular session. Define environmental science, explain the components of environmental science, and explain the relationships between ecology and ecosystem. So to start with, let's have a short motivation. As of the moment, I want you to list down 5 living things and 5 non-living things that you can see around you and be able to support your answer. So you need to ask the question, why did you classify such thing as living thing? Or what set living things apart from non-living things? Okay. So when we are classifying living things or characterizing living things, we need to understand or to remember the mnemonics Mises Gren. M stands for movement, so all living things are capable of moving. They are also respiring. So letter R is for respiration. Next, S is for sensitivity, that is respond to stimulus. G is for growth. R is for reproduction. So all living things are capable of reproducing themselves through sexual or asexual reproduction. E is for excretion. And the last N would be for nutrition, meaning we need to take in nutrients or food in order for us to survive as living things. So I want you to think about this picture or compare the picture. What are their differences and their similarities? Actually, this particular picture is taken in the same location. So this one is Muir and Riggs Glacier in 1941, and this one is Muir and Riggs Glacier in 2004. So as you can see, this is the situation now we are experiencing. Other ice caps are actually slowly melting due to global warming. Another evidence of the existence of climate change or global warming around us would be this particular picture. This is the Pedersen Glacier in Alaska in 1920. And in 2005, this is now the picture of the Pedersen Glacier in Alaska. So this particular picture would like to dictate us that global warming is true and climate change is just around us. So we need to take a stand and we need to be aware of the different issues that are happening around us, particularly here also in the Philippines. So let's define environmental science. Take note that environmental science is not only a standalone science, that actually it is an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary science. It embraces countless branches of studies like sciences of biology, chemistry, agriculture, public health, sanitary, engineering, etc. It comprises both applied and theoretical facets of human influence to the world. So when you come to think of it, we are actually the reasons also the majority of the destructions that we can see around us are caused by human beings. But positive note, we will also be the ones to solve these particular issues if we just hand in hand help together and to sustain our environment. So environmental science and how the natural world works. Its goal, developing solutions to environmental problems. And as what I mentioned earlier, it is actually an interdisciplinary field. Natural sciences, information about the natural world or will help us to determine different information and principles around us. This is where biology, physics, chemistry will come in inside the natural sciences. And also, it's social sciences, wherein we need to understand it to study human interactions and behavior. Since these particular interactions between humans will actually help us also to understand why this particular problem in the environment happened and how to particularly solve these particular issues. So environmental science is composed of different sciences, maybe ethics, ecology, biology, chemistry, atmospheric science, oceanography, geology, archaeology, anthropology, sociology, history, political science, engineering, and economics. So as you can see, it's actually a combination of both natural sciences and social sciences. This will build interrelationships in environmental science. As we take note earlier, that environmental science is actually a combination of different sciences. So we will try to understand examples of how these particular sciences are intertwined. So first, a community decides to use coal for electricity as it is the cheapest source available. That's economics. Way back in the Industrial Revolution, people tend to use coal since it is actually cheaper as compared to other sources of energy. So here, because of our urge for development or progress, we also tend to burn this coal to produce pollution. Second one, the coal must be mined from under the soil, and this is geology. So in order to extract this particular coal underground, since it's buried under high pressure and also temperature, underwater or under the soil, then we need to study geology as an environmental scientist. Next, the coal must be transported to the population center by road or rail. So this is where engineering works come in on how to deliver this particular fuel to the next destination. Next would be chemistry. So when it is burned at a power plant, air pollution is released. Some of the pollution is converted to acid in the atmosphere. And this is where environmental chemistry will come in. Since, as we know, when we burn fuels containing sulfur and nitrogen, and also numerous it's containing carbon-rich compounds, so therefore we will produce carbon dioxide, which aids to the greenhouse effect. It also produce NOx and SOx, which are both um, pollutants causing acid rain. The next science that we need to understand in environmental science would be meteorology. So this falls as acid rain somewhere down. So where is the direction of the wind? That will be the location wherein your acid rain will fall. Okay, so it is dictated by the wind pattern. So we need to study meteorology. It's with ecology, the acid stresses plants by affecting the nutrient absorption. This is where imbalance will come in, since this particular acid rain will now affect the growth of our plants because of the absorption, in our soil. So that is where ecology will come in. And lastly, the very big part of environmental issues would come into politics. So this is where we implement or make laws for the environment. So laws are passed requiring the plants to install pollution standards. So in order to remove or air pollutants in the air, we need to tell the plant, no, or the industry to include scrubbers so that the gases that will be coming out of the staff will be lesser in terms of environmental impact. So now let's go to the components of environmental science. Environmental science also needs the study of atmospheric science. It is actually a broad field that deals with the study of atmosphere, its processes, the effects of other systems in atmosphere, and vice versa. It covers other fields such as your meteorology, which we included earlier in our discussion in terms of interrelationship, climatology, and environment. The next component of environmental science is ecology, which is very fundamental to us because we also belong here. Ecology is a scientific study of the relationships between organisms and their environment. This involves the diversity, distribution, amount, which is in biomass, number, population of organisms, as well as competition between them in among ecosystems. So in terms of ecology, we need also to understand survival of the fittest. In terms of resources, if you're actually lacking of resources, then there will be a problem maintaining the balance in our ecosystem. And remember, when we study ecology, we need to take into consideration the different roles that are also each organisms are also taking taking it. Mhm. Every component of ecology or ecosystem as a whole is very important for the balance of nature. So the next component would be environmental science. It is a scientific discipline focused on the chemical changes in the environment. So the principal areas covered in study are soil contamination and water pollution. Topics include chemical degradation in the environment, multi-phase transport of, and chemical effects in the environment. So we need to consider different pollution in terms of environmental chemistry. And through environmental chemistry, understanding it will actually help us as environmental scientists or environmental science students to know more about how to control these particular issues, especially water and soil pollution. The next would be geosciences. Geosciences is a scientific study on the Earth's crust that includes environmental geology, environmental soil science, and volcanic phenomena. It covers classifications such as hydrology and oceanography. So in terms of natural sources of pollution, one of it would be the volcanic activities, wherein volcanoes tend also to produce pollutants in the air. So we will also be affected because of natural reasons, especially here in the Philippines. We are in the Pacific Ring of Fire. So mostly are also surrounded with different volcanoes, and some of it are actually active, releasing gases into the atmosphere and creating pollution. And in terms of social science as a component of environmental science, we have ethics. So ethics is a branch of philosophy that is derived from the logical application of human values. It distinguishes between the right or the wrong. These values are the principles that an individual or a society considers important or worthwhile. So it determines whether conduct is morally acceptable and unacceptable. So that is ethics. So turning between what is good and what is bad. And in terms of environment, we have the term environmental ethics. Environmental ethics is a field of applied ethics that considers the moral basis of environmental responsibility. So if you could recall your high school days or your basic education, one of the components of your character building is more on makakaligtas. So since elementary days, you were taught about our moral obligations in the environment. And here in environmental science, we will review those obligations and particularly apply those in our everyday life as college students. It includes human as part of the natural community rather than managers of it. Such ethics places limits on human activities that may adversely affect the natural community. Okay. So we need to think that our environment is limited in resources so that we will not exploit it, we will not take advantage of it, and we can think more about our future generations so that we will also have these resources that we are actually having right now. So connected to it is sustainable ethic. When we talk sustainable ethic, it is actually environmental ethic by the way people treat the earth as if its resources are limited. Just like what I've said earlier, when we think that our environment is limited, our resources are limited, then we will conserve this particular resource. So if you could remember the film Lorax, wherein their resources are actually all artificial, and they would even buy bottles of oxygen in order to survive. So if we will try or we will tend to exploit the environment, then that would be a possibility in the future, wherein our children or even us would actually buy gas or oxygen in order to survive. So the tenets for sustainable ethic would be the following. We have the three. So the earth has limited supply of resources, so we need to conserve it. That's one. Number two, humans must conserve and share the earth's resources with other living things. We're not the only we're not the only campers in this earth. We also have different animals and plants. So we don't need or we don't want to abuse our right as humans and even invade Also the territories of our plants and animals in the forest or under the oceans. So we need to think of tenet number two. And lastly, humans are part of nature and are affected by natural laws. So whatever we throw in nature, it tends to come back. Okay, remember karma? So whatever we throw in the universe, it is actually being brought back to us. So if we will try to destroy our environment, then possibility would be the environment could also cause some sort of revenge to us. No, so right at the moment, as of the moment, we're experiencing global warming, too much heat coming from the sun, and it's being trapped here on Earth, and it cannot escape no in the atmosphere. So, remember tenet number three, we are all affected by natural laws. So next would be sustainable development. Sustainable development is defined as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This definition was given by Norwegian Prime Minister G.H. Brundtland, who was also director of World Health Organization or WHO. So in terms of sustainable development, we need to think of this particular tenet, sustainable ethic, and apply it on our own development as a country currently. We not we need not only to think about the present, but also we become futuristic in terms of sustainable development. Say for example, before doing something, we need first to think if are we wasting this particular resources? Is it for the good of common or is it for the good of all? Or is it only self-centered? So sustainable development is actually a development without compromising the needs, no, or the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. For example, um, when we use big hold nets, no? So if malaki yung nets natin, then there will be a tendency that small fish would actually escape. And that's also a sustainable development. We have our own food in the present, and in the future, since those small fish will grow, will be also used for future development, and that is sustainable development. Another one for boys, we need to use preferably to use urinals as compared to using toilets, since urinals could lessen the amount of water that we need to flush out of the toilet. This would be making line in as compared to take out. Since in takeout, we tend to generate more waste and this particular waste will now be just thrown away, and it could add to the pollution. Okay? And also, when we have a private car as compared to riding a bus or a jeep, it would be preferably good for the environment if we tend to commute or to use a public utility vehicle, since it's a common transportation ayan, at a particular destination without using additional car or additional combustion of gases or combustion of fuel and generation of gas or air pollutants. That is actually sustainable development. Okay. We're heading to the last part of our discussion, which is actually the ecosystem and ecology. So remember earlier that ecosystem is actually a study of the interaction between living and non-living things. When you talk about ecosystem, it includes all the living things, such as your plants, animals, and organisms in a given area, interacting with each other and with their non-living environment, such as the weather, the earth, the sun, the soil, climate, and atmosphere. And these are all, if you will remember your biology, biotic and abiotic factors. In an ecosystem, each organism has its own niche or role to play. As what I said earlier, every component of our ecosystem are all connected, and remove a key factor or a key component of the ecosystem, and imbalance will truly happen, or there will be imbalance in our. So if you look at this picture, it's actually an ecosystem, since we can see here Different non-living components such as your water, the soil, the sun, or wherein we need to regulate the temperature because of the sun, and also the air that surrounds this particular scenario. And for the living things, we have the different plants and animals in this particular picture, and including human. Okay, we have the fish, we have the water lilies, the trees that grow, and also the grasses. Next one, this is also a particular picture of an ecosystem wherein there is actually a living and non-living components. And to sum it up, the difference between ecology and ecosystem based from difference between.com. So the definition of ecology, it is a broad study of the relationships between organisms in the surrounding environment. While we talk about ecosystem, its definition is the entire biological community and area along with physical and chemical environment that includes non-living or abiotic components. For their correspondence, ecology is a study of all the ecosystems in a vast area. Remember, we have different ecosystems. So the study of those ecosystems will fall under ecology as a branch of biology. And when we talk about ecosystem, it's actually a subset of ecology that focuses on a particular environment and its ecosystem. So that's all for today, and see you in our next video. Thank you.